Okay, all right.
$5.
Well, let's see. David Ebert is joining us. Thank you for joining us here on Flight 1080, David. How are you?
Good, Dave.
Okay, good. It's good to get you on such short notice. We were hooked up with you through our friend David Corsi over here, who suggested that you might be a good guest. There's a bunch of things going on with the shark population out there right now, so let's start off with that.
Cool. Yep. Yeah. There's plenty of sharks out there right now, and it's pretty cool. I tell people it's really interesting. Is you got a lot of these little sharks, sort of 5, 6, 7 foot sharks, which are kind of the young of the year, the babies, and that's really unusual for up in this area. They're more of things you typically see in Southern California, and so it's pretty cool that we're seeing. And this is like the 4th year now we've been seeing these little sharks up here. So
do sharks have like a pupping season or a mating season, a sexy time season?
Yeah, they do have their moments, and but like with white sharks, we're really not sure when and where that is. We know that like the little ones, the newborns, tend to show up off the Southern California coast, kind of in the springtime, generally, and this is a little far north for them, and so we think they're probably being born down south, and they're just sort of migrating up here because, well, Monterey's a nice area to venture to. Mm-hmm. But we don't really know like a lot of what's going on, other than there seems to be a lot of them up here, and it's been fascinating.
Now, there's been rumors that there was a family of sharks that likes to hang out near the cement ship, which is actually made of concrete, near the concrete ship. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, there's been. I know I've been up a number of times with Chris there at Specialized Helicopters, looking at the sharks out there, and there's a lot of them up there, sort of in that cement boat area up to New Brighton, and and those tend to be the smaller ones, like in sort of the 6, 7, 8 footers. You go down to Manresa's, anybody will tell you that's where the larger ones tend to hang out for the most part. Yeah.
Wow. We're talking. How big is dangerous? 6 or 7 foot? Are they likely to attack a human?
Well, I'm 6 foot, so if it's as big or bigger than me, it's dangerous to me. But yeah, I mean the size I really get a little more concerned about is when they get to be about 10 foot, then they shift from feeding mostly on bony fishes like halibut and stuff. They shift over to marine mammals, harbor seals and sea lions, elephant seals. And so when they get a little larger, about 10 foot or so and on up, that's when you got to be a little more. Well, you always got to be careful around them, but that's when they're looking for mammals and larger food items.
Okay, let's talk shark safety repellents. Is there any such thing? My co-host here, Jack, he has a device that uses electromagnetic field to disrupt the tracking senses of the shark. Does that work?
Well, it's been mixed. Because that's been tested. There's been some different devices tested, and some of the things do work, but some of them actually attract sharks.
Oh no!
They're real sensitive to electromagnetism in the water and stuff. And in some sharks, it does seem to work, and others it actually attracts them.
You should see the look on my face because I go surfing at Manresa.
That was a great face.
And see, now I'm making a face like I just saw a dead body crawl out from behind my desk, and it looks like me.
So what is there anything that can dissuade a shark from attacking? Maybe that would make you look not as attractive.
Well, I think the one thing is because people tend to be, relative to marine mammals, which have a lot of, they're very heavy, have a lot of fat storage, which is what they want for energy and stuff. So we're pretty skinny comparatively speaking. So that's probably, and then if you're surfing in the water a lot of time, you're probably generally in pretty good shape and thin. So there's not a lot of energy there for them to really want to put you on the menu to go after. What's the thing is what people don't realize is the sharks generally tend to hunt in the surf. The white sharks, they tend to be back of the surf line when they're just kind of cruising. But what I think happens in a lot of these attack situations is the sharks, they're investigating. I think a lot of them are. They tend to invest, and they obviously don't have hands and stuff. So their way of investigating is actually sort of bite and spit. Mm-hmm. Which, if you're the unfortunate person, that's not a good thing to have to be bitten like that. So, but yeah, it's people are not in the menu. And I've said, I've told a number of people, it's like when you think about the average number of attacks in California is about 3 or 4 a year. It's there's a lot of, some years are 0, some years there might be 7 or 8, but on average since 1950 it's about 3 or 4 a year. And the population, of course, has gone from about 15 million people to about 40 million now. And of course, people are in the water a lot more. That you've had with the development of surfboards, wetsuits. People are surfing a lot more up north, for example, than they used to years ago. And yet, the number of attacks just really hasn't changed. And so, your chances of being attacked have actually gone down. Really? Over the years.
And when they do attack, it doesn't seem like they eat the people like we saw on the Jaws movies, right? They don't actually eat people for the most part. They just kind of bite and reject, and the people bleed to death when they do die, right?
Right, yeah, that's really the it's kind of, I hate to say luck of the draw, but it's just like they'll bite, and you refer to as bite and spit, where they'll bite the victim and let them go, and then a lot of times it's just a matter of, a lot of times the people just bleed to death. But here you tend to have like people at the beach, lifeguards or others there that can get fairly quick assistance to emergency room that tends to save people's lives. I believe the number is about 15 or so fatal attacks in California since 1950. It's a fairly low number. There's been over, I think it's around 120 or 30 attacks in total during that time, but it's a very low percent are actually fatal. So your chances of surviving is good.
Now, what makes a shark attack a human, or at least to go and investigate, to bite and spit? What brings them? What draws them is, I think we've all heard that the silhouette of us on a surfboard makes us look like a big fat sea lion. But I've also heard they don't really have good vision. That would be true. What's the deal?
Yeah, I think what is they're in clear water. Their vision is not too bad, but it tends to be, the vision is more closer in. But when you're in the surf, it's obvious there's a lot of turbulence going on. And I think what happens is the sharks just can't distinguish between, say, a seal or a surfer, and so they're kind of and probably the what they're picking up as far as vibrations and movements and stuff might not register with them, so they kind of like they're coming in to investigate. But again, if you look at I've been up there looking at these sharks. If you see the number of sharks that are down there, I'll see 20, 30 sharks off the cement boat, and there's people playing in the water, their kids are in the water, and they don't realize like less than 100 feet away there's like 6 white sharks swimming.
You don't scream at them? You should scream at them and tell them, hey, stupid.
I'm usually about 1,000 foot up in a helicopter, and they're usually smaller sharks. And if we see, if we're up there and we see like if there's some like large sharks there and stuff, well, they'll call down to they'll notify like the lifeguards and stuff that there's some large sharks down there and stuff. So it's not, they're not just ignoring the situation.
David, now that I'm thinking about it, if sharks do go and bite and spit a human, right? They go and spit out. Do they do that with seals? Because when I watch documentaries, it looks like they don't bite and spit; they just go and take that thing down.
Well, yeah, that's a full-on. Yeah, if a shark comes out, and there have been some. For those that were around the area, I grew up over in the Monterey area. Like if they remember, like the Borin attack back in 1981, that was probably a full-on attack where it just came in and just more or less just cut the guy in half, that surfer, and it was unfortunate. But that would be an example of pretty much of a full-on attack versus say your bite and spit.
But what it would seem to indicate is that they understand the difference between a seal and a surfer, and it almost seems like maybe they're trying to bully us or to attack, to kind of just nudge us away. But like you said, they don't have hands or any other way to just right. Bite. Maybe they're picking on us.
Well, here's the thing too: is that there have been examples of where these white sharks will sometimes they'll almost play with a victim, almost similar like sometimes a cat will play with a mouse and not actually eat it, but it'll play with it and eventually the mouse will be killed. And sometimes white sharks have been observed to do this, where they'll actually and there's a well-known case when I used to live in South Africa where where a white shark bit a surfer, and he seemed to be okay initially, but then there was 2 white sharks. They kept like grabbing the guy and they'd run with his body and then spit him out, and then the other one was grabbing him. And I don't want to sound too graphic on air, but it's like it was literally like the guy. And I talked to the guys that observed it, some of the other surfers. They said it looked like a cat, 2 cats playing with a mouse, is what it did.
Holy cow!
So there's other behaviors that do go on that I think we're missing here.
Wow. All right. How do we find out more about sharks? Where do we go to find out more about our friends out there in the ocean?
Well, there's you can go to some of the public aquariums. If you're up in the San Francisco area, I'm going to be speaking at the Nightlife on Thursday night there, talking about sharks. If you're interested in finding out more.
That's at the San Francisco Aquarium?
That happens to be in the San Francisco Aquarium, but you can also check in like with the Monterey Bay Aquarium and in other places, and check on our website. And sometimes we'll be posted, like usually if I'm speaking or someone else is speaking, we'll have information posted on the Moss Landing Marine Laboratories website.
All right, Dave. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you. Okay.
That was Dave Ebert, the Shark Guy. We want to thank you for joining us here on Flight 1080. Boy, what do you think? What do you think, Jack? You still feel confident about your anklet?
No, I feel worse.
It is 4:30. We're going to head out with some birthday music.